Hello. I am assuming by now, if you are on part 3, that you've watched part 1 and part 2 of my story. And I figured that I would do an entire video of the frequently asked questions that I get when people either hear my story in person or they read it or watch my videos. So we're gonna jump right in. First question, and the most common question that I get, is if you get pregnant again, will you get hyperemesis? There is an 85% chance that yes, I will get hyperemesis if I get pregnant again. They say that the severity of the hyperemesis can vary with all subsequent pregnancies, but if you have as severe of a version of it as I did, then you'll most likely get it again. 85 is a really high number for me. I've talked to a lot of women who had hyperemesis, and almost all of them had some version of it with all of their pregnancies. My mind is blown when I talk to a woman who's had 2, 3, 4 HG pregnancies. No matter how severe they are or not, that is crazy. The strength and mental fortitude to do that is insane, and I'm so in awe of them. So yes, I guess the answer for me is yes. That 15% that kind of sits in the back of my mind would be amazing, but it's very unlikely. For me, sharing personal stories or uncomfortable things or hard topics has always been kind of easy, and I'm not sure if that's just because I'm a wear my heart on my sleeve, you get what you get, like what you see is what you get type person. So maybe that lends itself to being more open and vulnerable and not feeling like that's that challenging. The one thing that I was worried about or scared or kind of just wondering was how it was going to be received. Were people going to feel like I was just complaining, or like I should just, as one comment said, "Do you think this is really that big of a deal? Shouldn't you just be thankful that you were able to have your baby?" Yeah, absolutely, I should be thankful. And I do think it's a big deal because there are so many women who go through what I go through and didn't get the level of care that I was fortunate enough to receive. So I feel like it is a big deal, and it is something that should be talked about and should be more taken more seriously. I think that's the number one thing that I hear from women when I talk to other hyperemesis women, is that they feel like they're not being taken seriously. And that's what a lot of women face when they share their story, or when people kind of hear you talk about it. You can see it in their face that they're like, okay. And maybe that's partly because most hyperemesis women sugarcoat things when they're talking about it, because they don't want to come across as ungrateful for having a healthy baby. But you can be thankful and grateful and so in awe of the gift that you received of a healthy baby, and still, this is the important part, and still feel your feelings and emotions about what you went through and have them validated. And I think that's really, really important, and something that needs to be repeated over and over and over again. Next question. Do you live in fear of an accidental pregnancy? I hadn't really thought about it a lot until I started telling my story and started kind of like going through all of that, and dealing with all those thoughts and emotions and things that I wasn't thinking about because I was so concentrated on Adeline. My husband and I have been together for 15 years, and we prevented it for that long until we wanted it and we're ready. So I'm just trying to live in faith and believe that how it's meant to be is how it will be. But I also try very hard not to live in fear, not to think about these things daily, and to just truly concentrate on Adeline and what I have. What I have right here, which is amazing. So look who's awake. Hi, baby. What do you think? What do you think? Hello, did you just wake up? She's gonna work on crawling while we finish talking. How am I working through PTSD? I think PTSD can be misunderstood sometimes, and that it comes in all different Hi, that's how I'm working through my PTSD. I hang out with her all day. It comes in all different forms and severities, and so for me, I worked through a lot of it the second half of my pregnancy. And I think because the second half was so much easier than the first half, it was a little bit of a buffer and time in between the really, really bad stuff and when Adeline was born. So I think when she was born, I had already kind of made a lot of progress. But I think it's normal for it to kind of ebb and flow. Like sometimes I'll just have moments where I get frustrated with where my body's at physically because of being on bed rest for so long, and match that with also trying to recover from normal postpartum, and I just get frustrated. I guess that's kind of a trigger for me, is when my back hurts, or I'm frustrated that none of my clothes fit, or I'm nowhere near as strong as I was before I got pregnant, or any number of things that happen during a day that can make me just feel frustrated and kind of just anxious about being so far from what I was before I got pregnant, because I was so sick, because I lost pretty much all my muscle mass. I was on bed rest for almost 9 months. I had a PICC line, I had no nutrition, like all of these things, and then add on top of that also trying to recover from a normal like postpartum recovery, and it just gets very overwhelming sometimes. And I think that is when I start to feel that like anxiety and kind of just like tension build up. I've had to learn since the beginning of the pregnancy to just find acceptance and patience in all of this. And they've been really, really good lessons to learn. And I feel like I'm a very different and much better person because of it. So, what was the hardest part about being so sick? There were a lot of really challenging things, but for me, the hardest thing was to feel guilt over being so sick during a time where most people are happy and excited and joyful and celebrating. I wanted so badly to give everybody the pregnancy that they had been waiting a really long time for. Andrew and I are a little bit older, and my parents have been waiting for a grandchild for a long time, and Andrew had been waiting for a really long time for me to be ready. And so there was a lot of guilt that came along with feeling like I wasn't providing what everybody was looking forward to. And then on top of that, feeling just this pit in my stomach at all times that I wasn't doing a good enough job for Adeline, that I wasn't eating the right foods or even being able to drink water. And those are things that seem so basic, and to not be able to provide those things for her, I immediately, right off the bat, felt like a failure as a mom. And it had been not even a couple weeks yet. So I learned that lesson really, really fast. When I would talk to people and they would say, oh, have you tried taking some vitamins? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? It just made me feel like shit, honestly. Just made me feel like crap, that I couldn't even do the basic things. I couldn't even take a prenatal vitamin because I would just throw it right back up. So those were the two things that were the most challenging for me. The mental aspect of feeling that guilt and that shame and like I was failing as a mom already, those were really hard things to kind of work through and come to terms with, and try to switch my mindset into, you are doing a good job, you are managing this, you're doing the absolute best you can in an impossible situation, and all she needs from you is to stay calm, stay positive, and stay alive. And you're doing those things. So instead of feeling like you're failing, you should feel like you are doing an absolute incredible job. And it took, you know, a couple different conversations with a couple different people to kind of like work through those things. But once I kind of just flipped my mindset and switched that around, it was actually a really good thing to go through, because it was such a good lesson to learn before Adeline even got here. And it really helped once she was here to already have kind of worked through that stuff. Yeah, it was. I don't know. It's just such like a weird question to me. It's just so odd that that's what we say and ask pregnant women. Yes, 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 yes. I don't know. There's like nothing else to say. There's no like adding after that. Yes, it was. Hi, baby. What doing? She's practicing crawling. All she wants to do is just be on the ground and learn to crawl. She will launch herself out of my arms if I hold her for too long, because she wants to be on the ground learning to crawl. Do you think you'll do it again? Kind of already touched on this. It's not a conversation we're ready to have yet. I know I'm not ready to have it. I'm not even fully healed from doing it once. I couldn't even possibly go to that place mentally. She's pooping. Get it, girl. Do I think I will do it again? I don't know. We have not had that conversation yet. I don't think either of us are ready to have that conversation. I'm not sure when that time will be. We did have plans to have a second baby. We always wanted to have 2 kids. Of course, I want Adeline to have a sibling. I think one of the most challenging things about the aftermath of hyperemesis is seeing sibling relationships in other families and feeling a sense of guilt and sadness that I might never be able to give her that. This obviously would be just for women who have hyperemesis or someone who's taking care of someone with hyperemesis. I'll tell you first, the question, what medicine combo finally worked for you? I'll tell you first what didn't work for me. Bongesta didn't do anything. Reglan made me actually feel worse. Oral Zofran did not do a single thing. My Zofran pump worked to control my vomiting from 20 times to about 7 or 8 a day for a couple of weeks, and then stopped working once I hit that like 13-week mark, which in hyperemesis world is the worst. And then what finally ended up working for me was an IV version of Pepcid and Kytril and IV fluids. Another very specific hyperemesis question was, did the excessive saliva ever go away? It did, but it took forever. Oh my gosh. It stuck around longer than anything else. Like, it was so gross. The excessive saliva was the worst. I had a spit bottle that I carried around with me everywhere. I disguised it as if it was a water bottle, and I would like do this as I spit in it in public so that people didn't see me just like just constant. Your mouth just fills to the brim with saliva. Even after taking the Pepcid and the Kytril and the vomiting stopped, still so much. But yes, it did stop for me eventually. I think it was around like 30-ish weeks is when it started to like taper, and then it finally fully went away near the very, very end. Such a big part of having hyperemesis is feeling like nobody understands, feeling like you're completely alone and isolated, and you really just want someone to look at you and understand you, or say something to you that makes you go, oh, they get it. Being able to say something out loud to someone and have them completely understand what you're feeling or thinking without judging you and without feeling like, well, shouldn't you just be thankful that you have a healthy baby? Well, is it really that bad? Oh, you just have morning sickness? Not because people are ill-intentioned, or most people aren't, but because they just don't get it. They just either don't understand, can't understand, because so few people have hyperemesis. So it is a big deal. It's a big deal for a lot of people that go through it. And I can both feel like it's a big deal, feel my negative, positive, happy, sad, frustrated, anxious emotions all at the same time, and all while being 1000% grateful that I have a healthy, wonderful daughter. They are not separate. They can coexist. So let's try to remember that when we are helping someone through something like this that you might not understand, or that can feel like maybe they're being ungrateful when they're not. They're just trying to work through what happened to them. It's hard because the early weeks of pregnancy are when a lot of the big developmental things are happening for your baby, and so you want to keep not only the types of medicine that you're taking, but the amount of medicine that you're taking to a bare minimum. Like, so I'm not 100% sure how that would work out. I would want to push for no medicine for as long as possible. But that's hard because the bulk of the sickness happens in the first 20 weeks. So it would be a balancing act of enough medicine to control so I don't get as sick as I did the first time, but not so much that it's gonna affect the development of the baby. So it's also something that we could plan and think we're gonna do all of these things and have a great plan in place, and then maybe the Kytrel doesn't work again. Maybe I'm not as sick. Maybe I'm more sick and have to have a feeding tube this time. I don't know. You don't know what. Normal pregnancies are so different from first to second to third. Each pregnancy is so different, and it's the same with hyperemesis. So as much as we would want to plan and think like we can do this worked last time, you don't know what's going to play out. So I don't know. The questions that I get are very specifically wondering if we would ever choose to try again because of how severely sick I was. And I wish I had a better answer, but I just don't. I don't know. I truly, truly do not know. I don't have an answer. And anytime that I try to work through it in my brain, I go back and forth. I think, okay, well, we could maybe handle it better a second time around. And on the other side, I think, well, what if it is as bad and I miss out on 10 months of Adeline's life and she has to watch her mom lay in bed all day and I can't play with her, take care of her, and that like literally makes my throat close up. It makes me so upset to think about. So the multitude of things to consider, I don't know how to work through all of them. And it's going to take a really long time to kind of do that. Oh, good job! Good job, cutie! She's going down. She's yelling timber. She better move. You better dance. Good job, Munchkin. Yeah, very good. Come here, lay down. Down. I have an audience. Adeline to my left, Riley to my right, and Roxy just right behind me. Everybody wants to be in here watching me film, apparently. Hi. Good planking. Was it all worth it? Do you think you'll do it again? This one was asked by a male. Just the wording just like cracks me up. I just knew immediately when I saw it, I'm like, a guy asked this question. No offense.